The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pour on top of a pour.
Yeah.
We had a test pour earlier.
Test pour, and we're waiting for the... Did you bring Shannon?
I did.
Okay, so we're waiting on the Shannon to get a little bit cold. Is this going to be the first show in... I don't know how long that we're drinking Chenin Blanc and it's not Bart's.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Welcome to the Winemakers, everyone. This is Brian Casey with Bart Hansen. We have George Walker III with us today. Sam is on assignment. I think he probably is at some Dead & Co shows, him and the family.
I think his eyes are rolled back in his head.
Yeah, I think they flew back east to go hit a couple shows before seeing the last three that are going to be here in July. And John is out on assignment today. George, I don't know how we got you on the show. Bart, maybe you can explain how.
You know, I think it was me. I
on our continuing quest to invite more people from Napa on the show.
But in this case, you know, I'm going to throw it right out there. Mr. Dwyane Wade has jumped into the wine business, and I would be a liar if I didn't say that I'd love to have him. There's a bunch of people I'd love to have on the show, and I literally saw that you guys were having your event gather.
Yes,
correct?
When we gather, absolutely.
When we gather. Tomorrow night?
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I just threw out a text message and say, hey, you're going to be so close to Sonoma. If you'd like to come up and be on our podcast. Of course, I knew he wasn't answering it, but Michelle picked it up and mentioned that, of course, he wouldn't be available, but that you would be available. And I jumped at it. I've followed you for quite a while. I don't even know how I found you. Maybe it had something to do. Were you on... What was it? Wine TV for a little while.
Yeah,
Somm TV for a little while. Maybe that's where I got hip to it.
Sparklers.
Yep. Sparklers. Yep.
Absolutely.
And so when she suggested, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So of course, Mr. Wade is welcome to come sometime in the future if he'd like. We can turn him on to some good Sonoma County grapes.
We love it.
And that's how we're here. So let's do it.
So. George, before we even talk about...
He's the hype man.
I bring the hype.
Well, honestly, what is your official title for Dwyane Wade Cellars?
Yeah, so first off, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to meet you both in person. I've been following you for a while now, Bert. This is incredible. I'm not as cool as Dwyane.
We don't know that.
Yeah, but I'm super honored to be here. So, my official title is National Brand Ambassador, but that kind of encompasses all things. There's not many of us at Wade Cellars, so we kind of wear all the hats. Whether that be helping out with production, whether that be helping out with national sales or even international sales. I just got back from Toronto 2 days ago. Whether that be marketing, branding, the whole ordeal, we kind of assist with all the things.
I mean, that's the great thing about a small company, right? It's like, what are you doing today? Well, it's probably not what I'm going to be doing tomorrow.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely not. Yeah. Every day is completely different. Yeah. And I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Planned out is great, and that way you can stay organized. But there's always things, especially in this business, something gets thrown into the schedule, especially during harvest,
right?
Or whatever. Someone needs you to come for a dinner or come to pour wine for somebody. So yeah, you got to be ready to go.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Right. There you go.
So before we even get into D. Wade Cellars, let's talk about you and your history and your journey into wine. You're a young guy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always have to remind myself of that. But, my journey has been so I mean, it's been pretty basic, but at the same time, still completely amazing, right? Right now, I mean, I'm in Sonoma, eating charcuterie, drinking amazing Aron blend, varietals, that is, and this is what I get to do for a living, which is wild, right? But coming up, I was trash in undergrad, not even undergrad, in school in general.
Explain that for people, what you mean by that.
Yeah, right.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the traditional education system within America is mostly focused on the liberal arts aspect of learning rather than focusing on the vocational aspect of learning. And I think that there's, no one person is the same, and no one person learns the same, right? So I feel like the American education system, I wouldn't say necessarily failed me, but it just that traditional route was not best suited for me. Yeah. And my parents really saw that. Fortunately, I had two loving parents who, my mom was a teacher when she's not a principal, and my dad's a pastor, so they weren't having that at all. So they ended up sending me to a tech center where I ended up focusing on culinary. At the time, I ended up choosing culinary because I thought that I'd be skipping half a day of school, making cinnamon rolls and just being able to just fuck off the entire time.
That's why we all took home ec, right? In
exactly.
High school, we knew you were going to eat good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was I learned how to tournay. I learned how to julienne. I learned all the 5 mother sauces, classic stocks, and I fell in love with it, right? And I ended up going from there and ended up getting a job at this fine dining Italian restaurant where I ended up at 16 started flipping steaks and swordfish on the grill line, and I just fell in love with the industry. So much so that, when I decided that I wanted to go to undergrad, that I ended up deciding that I wanted to go to, the Culinary Institute of Michigan, where I actually ended up majoring in food and beverage management. And because, it takes a certain type of, as we know, it takes a certain type of person to be back of the house, and to be a chef full time. And, I'm just not cut from that cloth.
And sweaty.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. Hot, sweaty, long hours, nights, weekend.
You know what bothered me the most about working in the back of the house was you didn't get a lot of positive feedback from guests.
Right.
Whereas when you're in front of the house, you actually get to hear people say, "Thank you, this was really good." But when you're working in the back of the house, it's just chef yelling at you all the time.
Right, exactly. And it's and the style of cooking and the style of dining has definitely changed within even 10 years. Right, you're seeing a lot more open concept kitchens where you're able to kind of see people, you're able to see the chefs and interact with them on a certain level, and be able to kind of see the kind of having like a chef's table without having a chef's table, right?
It keeps them on their best behavior too.
Right. we know how the industry is. Yeah. But so I loved that fact, and that's why I ended up deciding to major in food and beverage management, because I still wanted to be a part of the industry and the culture of the industry. And it was while I was at the Culinary Institute of Michigan that I ended up volunteering for this wine tasting event, and at the time I poured a Chateauneuf du Pape, and at the time I was like, a Chateauneuf du what? Like, what you just call me, bro? Yes, come on, Glass. But at the time I had no idea what the hell they were talking about, right? Because I come from south side of Chicago, right? And this is traditionally not something that we see on the dinner table at all. So being able to be exposed to this entirely different world, and to be able to, then get explained to, what a Chateauneuf du Pape is, and it comes from the southwest region of France, and understanding the connection of, the Pope, who used to have this, castle in the southwest region of France, and used to go and visit, and ended up blessing this land of grapes, and then being able to like drink the juice, I was completely sold, even though,
more fun.
Yeah, exactly. Way more fun. Exactly. And I wasn't 21, so I was, I was fully in. But, I ended up, loving this story, and because I was in Michigan, which grows amazing, Cap Franc and Bluff Frankish, and even a little bit of Spätburgunder, Pinot Noir, Riesling, of course. I was able to join, the Food and Beverage Management Club, or Food and Beverage Club, which, we took different immersive trips up to, Traverse City or the Leelanau Peninsula. And
so what year was that?
This was back in like 2013.
Yeah, way back in 2013. And the reason why I asked that is because I'm sure the wine industry has grown up a lot since 2000 in Michigan.
Oh,
since
for sure.
2013. But at that point, it had still grown a lot, and it was probably starting to kind of, find its legs and figuring out. It wasn't like the first generation.
No.
Right? Like they started to move away from fruit wines. They started to move away from some hybrids, started finding some varieties that they could grow up there.
Absolutely.
So that's a pretty cool time to be there.
Yeah, it was such a cool time. By the time I ended up leaving, actually, I was sitting on the board at the Michigan Wine Collaborative, which was this collaborative of a bunch of different producers within Michigan that came together to do whatever initiative, whether that be get more funding from the state, whether that be marketing and branding, helping brand Michigan, whether that be whatever that was. So that it was a really cool time to be a part of just Michigan wine and to see where it's gone from when I started in wine to even now. Yeah. They are starting to get more into vitis vinifera, but at the same time they're also diving even more into hybrids, right? Which is a great conversation to be had, considering the climate that we're living in right now. When we're talking about things like global warming and things just changing within the climate.
Listen, I just got back from Denmark, and I didn't get out to any wineries like I had hoped, but I talked to quite a few professionals in the business, and they're fully on like, climate change might work out really well for us, and they're kind of going through the same thing. Like They're getting away from the fruit wines and the hybrids, trying to find some varieties they never heard of.
Right.
But it's changing it
completely.
And good for them, both in Michigan and in Denmark, for like jumping on this and going, we need to.
Well, easier than Michigan than in Burgundy.
Right.
Burgundy, a bigger conversation going forward.
Oh, completely. But you see, regions like Bordeaux who have, adopted, different grapes now, in that region. Right. So you're seeing that change being happening within, these historic regions that are so embedded, or tradition is so embedded in that culture, right?
Absolutely.
Generational.
Oh, for sure, completely. It's sad to see. It's sad to see, but it's also good to see, right? Because that conversation is being had, and people are. There are a lot of different people, and tastemakers and producers who are focusing on this change that needs to happen, right? So I mean, to get back to how I got into wine. So I ended up pouring that Chateauneuf, and ended up taking my sommelier exam when I was 21, passed it. Shortly thereafter, ended up working for a small distribution company in Michigan, Elixir Beverage, representing people like our portfolios like Jose Pastor, Julien Francois, Brooks, all of Andrew Jones's projects, so Fabulous, Field Recordings, that whole line, and a slew of other different producers who at the time I had no idea who the fuck they were. Just to be honest.
Field Recordings some of the Chenin Blanc kind of?
Yeah, that definitely opened my Jurassic Park Vineyard, for sure, Jurassic Vineyard. That was definitely my entry to Chenin, and that was definitely one of the first Chenins that I had ever had, and completely just kind of opened my eyes, as I started diving deeper and deeper into this grape, and also just the industry as a whole. Yeah.
Because who are you selling wine to?
Back then, I mean, it was I was a sales rep, so on premise and off premise, so both retail shops, restaurants. So both of those things. Okay. And at the time, it was a very small distribution company. So, I was one of 3 sales reps for the entire state. So I literally had a third of it while in undergrad. So slinging a bag while also still,
young black guy walking in the door.
Oh, yeah,
selling us.
Oh, for sure.
Wine,
yeah,
right?
for sure. It was weird. I mean, looking back at it, I was like, oh man, that's wild. I was like 60 pounds, maybe 40 pounds pounds lighter. So I was super skinny back then. It was an interesting time, especially in like West Michigan, which is very different than the East Side, which is of course like Detroit and that side. So it was definitely a lot more conservative. So it was very different for a small 21-year-old black kid to come into a restaurant and talk to him about Jose Pastor or that portfolio, or even whatever it was back then, semi-natty wine, if you will. It was different, and it was definitely different coming up, just because because I was a sales rep and working for a distributor, I got to see the industry, right, and really get to that was literally my job, was to make connections and make placements. So I got to talk to buyers literally from a third of the state, and I never saw anyone that looked like me. Ever. It was wild. I think the first time that I saw someone that looked like me was I went to Detroit, and Regina Gaines, who is the owner of a wine shop right down smack dab in the middle of downtown Detroit. And this was, after 3 years of being in the industry. And that was the first time. It's definitely changed a lot now. Yeah. A lot thanks to organizations like the Roots Fund, Wine Unify, all these different organizations that kind of popped up post 2020, or really during 2020, after the whole George Floyd thing. But it was a very interesting time to be in wine. It was just a very interesting time.
When you get to drink a lot of this cool juice too, which is great, right? You have to try all this stuff.
It doesn't suck.
Yeah,
it does not suck.
I mean, you could have found a job working for, a large winery that has 43 brands,
right?
And you were out trying to sling their 43 different brands. Like, you were fortunate. You got to work for a distributor who had some cool brands.
And
probably pushed you a little bit more on your own education and learning, as opposed to, this is Carnero Chardonnay.
Kendall Jackson.
I wasn't going to say their name.
We don't have sponsors, Bart.
You're right. That's right. That's why we don't have sponsors.
But no, you're completely right. I got kind of thrown to the wolves, or thrown to the line, whatever that saying is, right, really early. And I was very fortunate. I've been very blessed in my life with every role that I've had. I've been very fortunate to work, in the back of the house, front of the house, on premise, off premise, distribution, and now working for a producer. And every job that I've had, I've never applied for any one of them. It's always been through connection, and just networking. And every job that I've had, it's definitely been, the integrity has always been there. And not saying that these larger brands don't have integrity, but there's just a different feel that's had with these.
Right. When something feels right to you. I remember you did a dinner series where you incorporated art, music, wine, and food.
Oh man, you know about that? That's wild.
It reminded me of something. I think when I was working at Deshmere in Petaluma back in the day, I remember doing a wine dinner where I got a local gallery, and we sort of paired the art and played specific music, and I mean,
right.
I don't know if it worked really well, but the idea was like to pair the whole experience. And when I heard about you doing that, I had forgotten that I did that one time, and it reminded me of that. Just tell people a little bit about that project that you did.
Yeah, that was, wow, that was so long ago. But yeah, this was after, I guess it's all relative, right? But
it's awesome that he just blew your mind.
Right. Yeah, I had no idea you knew about that. But yeah, this was after I had left distribution, and I was working for Spartan Nash as a wine buyer, and I wanted to still be kind of in the trenches and kind of on the ground, and I wanted to kind of reimagine what wine looked like and what that experience looked like, because I hadn't had an experience that incorporated people that looked like me, specifically Black folk in general. And I really wanted to incorporate all of it, right? So I wanted to incorporate, live music. I want to incorporate live art, and then of course food, all into one experience, but from a Black lens, right? And to be able to show what it looked like to be able to enjoy wine from our lens, or my lens specifically, and it was a crazy experience, because the whole premise and the whole ethos of Graped Out, which was the name of my company back then, was to take the bougie out of wine, and to do that in a way that wasn't pretentious and wasn't elitist, right? So, I had people like, my boy Jordan Hamilton, who is a classically trained cellist, but he'll play Bach 1 second and then go from playing Bach to, rapping Chance the Rapper on his cello, right? I had artists like Kendall, who'd really incorporate art in the physical form of painting, while we were having this experience of dining with 5-6 different courses, and have this whole experience into one, which was amazing back then, right?
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was cool.
And what were you like during the dinner? Were you pouring the wines and then explaining why you paired specific things with the foods? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was the MC, I was the host, I was the one kind of leading the charge.
Ringleader.
And
whenever I do winemaker dinners, I call myself the ringleader.
Right.
We're just sort of wrangling the stories.
Exactly. Of the producer, of the artist, of the food, of the actual art, all of it, and kind of tying that all in to one story, because there's so many different stories that people have, that we just want to share, whether that be a story that's in bottle, right, which is the story that I love to tell most, but the story of the artist, all of it, right, the story of the food, and the why behind that, and really being able to kind of tie that all in together, especially in West Michigan at the time, because like I said, West Michigan was a very conservative place, so being able to do something that was outside of the box was cool,
and probably opened people's minds a little bit,
yeah,
right? And that's what we try to do when you try to. It's like trying to, people say, "Oh, I don't like Zinfandel." Brian always tells this story, "Oh, I don't like Zinfandel," and it's like, well, maybe you've just not had a Zinfandel that was
exactly
you like.
Exactly, and Zinfandel can do so many things, right? Depending on where it's grown, who produces it,
right.
How
the
much whole
they blend it,
exactly how much they blend the whole shebang. For whatever reason, the style of wine in California, and I'm guilty of it. But before moving out to California, I had my perception and my idea of what the California style is, right? And this is, post 97, after, the Parkerization, or after Robert Parker. And I say that to say, before I say this, I want to preference this, but I'm a little better with my tongue than I was at 25. But, there was a difference that happened post 97 with wine, right? The style of wine shifted to this flavor profile that essentially made the producers a lot of money, because Robert Parker would score it higher.
Score chasing.
Yeah, score chasing. Yeah. That's I think. And I don't fault Robert Parker for that, because I think that Robert Parker definitely helped the wine industry greatly, in California in particular, greatly. I think that he took great notes, looking back at his tastings that he had, and looking back at his notes, I think that he had a great palate. But at the same time, I think it shifted an entire style for more than a decade. It's even kind of trickling into now, but that's shifting. But that was my idea of California, especially Zinfandel, right? Big jammy, high alcohol, massive tannin, oak bomb. They would double oak it. They'd oak it for 6 months in new barrel and then take it out and put it in new oak after that. 6 months after that, it was a wild time.
But
to defend the California winemakers, they learned that from Chateauneuf de Pop.
Well, the older I get, I kind of think about the whole Robert Parker thing and about American consumers, that there's something going on in America that has to do with sweeter, bigger, that just is in people's diet in general, that I think somehow even sort of crossed over into wine. That,
absolutely.
I mean,
I completely
processed food and the amount of sugar that they put in, and food is basically designed to get you addicted to it.
Exactly. And then, so I mean, that leads to the conversation of talking about people like Julia Childs and the good food movement that happened back in like the 70s, right? 80s, and the step away from this idea of what we thought food was, right? And understanding that when we had these massive wars, and having to be able to feed all of these people quickly, and very easily, it shifted our idea of what food was and what food is, and we took a step away from that, and it kind of not kind of, but it definitely what it did was it shifted our palate completely and greatly. And what we saw happen was, with people like Julia Childs and people like Alice Waters. Excuse me, I said Julia Childs. I meant to say Alice Waters. I'm like 2 glasses in, but Alice Waters specifically with the good food movement. Excuse me, that's what I was referencing, particularly with Chez Panisse, and that shift that happened within America. We're starting to see that shift happen again right now within wine and within food, right? We're getting back to the source, and we're getting back to the origin and the pureness of what wine and food are and can do.
So I went ahead and poured the rosé here. It's getting down in temperature. It may need a little bit more, but I thought we'd get started with that. Can you tell us a little bit about this wine?
Well, I think Welcome Home, right? Isn't this Sonoma Coast?
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is
yeah, right. Welcome back,
friend.
Back to the land. I love it. So this Pinot Noir is.
And we haven't even talked how you got to the wine,
That's
to
all
the
right,
job. Let's get to the wine.
Absolutely. So this is our Pinot Noir, mainly made of Grenache, Cinsault, and Mourvedre.
Okay, departure, because I think originally it was Pinot, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So now
Exactly.
We've gone from Provence to sort of
road.
Okay,
Yeah. Something wrong. Exactly. But we wanted to add a little bit more weight. We wanted to add a little bit more richness, but still at the same time still have that nice bright acid, super clean, fresh, vibrant. But still has that kind of back that kind of carries you through. Yeah, I love this one. But even back to our ethos at Wade Cellars, right? The whole reason why Dwyane started Wade Cellars was to do exactly that, which is help make wine more accessible, right? For far too long, wine has only looked one certain way, and even with that certain way, it hasn't always felt very inclusive for people of color to not only be a consumer, but even as a profession, or even on a professional level, be able to be an active player or play an active role within even working within it. So when he started it, it was his goal to be able to kind of shift that narrative and that look for what a average wine drinker or even wine professional looks like. So we when we started back in 2012, the whole we started with our Oakville cab, which was we only made maybe a pallet and a half of this, and we sold it specifically all to China, because Dwyane had a relationship with a bunch of businesses out in China, and also he just loves the culture.
And was Yao Ming making wine at that time too? Which
he was
maybe had
he was making wine at the time.
There was some familiarity with people going, "Oh, these are athletes in the United States." Or something.
I don't know if that correlation was made back then.
Okay,
I'm not. I gotta ask Steve.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But all of that Oakville fruit was sold to China, and at the time, I mean, Oakville fruit, the Oakville bottling was $115 a bottle, which looking back at it didn't really jive with our core ethos, which was first and foremost accessibility. So we actually ended up a little bit later introducing the 3 by Wade brand, which is our entry level, which includes the rosé, the Chenin Blanc, and then our Cabernet Sauvignon. At the time, just specifically Napa Aviation, but this was something that really hit to that accessibility piece, which was making it available for everyone, from $20 to $40 for an Napa cab. So it's and if you look at the label, the label is actually kanji, which is san for the number 3, which was of course Dwyane's number while playing for the Heat. And also just happens to be the amount of championships he won too. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so we kind of jumped ahead. You're back in Michigan. You're kind of doing your own thing, but you want to take things to the next level. You realize that maybe you should get into the wine industry in terms of production,
right?
Maybe,
yeah.
And so you're thinking California is probably the place to be.
Not necessarily. I mean, yes and no. I was up for anything at the point. At this point, this was back in 2020, and the world had just kind of completely gone to shit. And I wanted to, like you said, I really wanted to dive deeper into the industry, and I wanted to start my own project. To be honest with you.
Well, and when you say that, what was your idea, or what did you think?
I wanted to make Riesling. Honestly, I wanted to make Riesling and Pinot
Typical
Noir.
Somm.
right.
And California Riesling.
No, not even California.
Okay.
So California was not the first choice.
Okay.
So I had put feelers out, all across the country. I was working, like I said before, for Spartan Nash, as a wine buyer, and I had I had reached out to Brooks Winery out in Oregon.
Yeah.
And that was another one of the producers that I represented when I was
awesome ones.
I love them, man. They're amazing wines. It's so balanced. The Amicasa is one of my favorite white blends, period. Their Pinots are phenomenal as well. But I reached out to them. I got a call back, and I was going to be doing a harvest internship out there. But 2 weeks prior to that, I had sent a random email to info@Dwyane Cellars.
And that's because for people that, so I go through this myself. Sometimes you want to get in touch with someone who is working with a brand that you want to be affiliated with, but you have no idea how to get these people. So your only way to do it is to go to the info at. And it's funny to me that you just decide to go ahead and go to info at and say, hey,
and do it. Yeah.
Right.
So I ended up getting
and who actually picked up info at that point?
Right. It was who got it? It was
personal assistant,
Jeff.
something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was our DTC manager. Jeff Harner, at the time, and I guess he had shot. So I accepted the position out at Brooks Winery.
Okay.
2 weeks after that, I had gotten an email back from the president, Matt Nauman, and he was like at Wade Cellars, and he was like, "Hey, I just got your email. I've been on vacation for a while. How about you shoot your resume over and let's hop on a call tomorrow?" So I'm like, okay, yo, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Yeah, exactly. I'm in there. I'm like, yo, let's go. So I shoot it over to him, and we hop on the call. And by the end of the conversation, he's like, I'm actually not looking for a harvest intern at all. I'm actually looking for a right-hand man for the whole operation. How soon can you get out here? Mic drop.
Better.
Yo, say less. I'm like, yo, this is wild. How soon can I get out there? So I'm like, drop everything, and 3 weeks later, I'm living in Napa as the first full-time employee at Wade Cellars.
So at the time, where were they? Because we kind of jumped from 2012, where most of the wine, or all of the wine at first, was going to China, and this was because Dwyane couldn't really be involved with an alcohol brand, being that he was still affiliated with the NBA, right? There's something in their contracts that doesn't allow them to be affiliated with an alcohol brand.
Exactly. There was this weird rule in the NBA that, active NBA players couldn't be associated with alcohol brands.
Right.
They can wave guns around. They actually can't wave guns around.
I mean,
Ja Morant.
Yeah.
He'll get it together. Yeah. But yeah, so it wasn't until 2019 that we started to actively really build, when Dwyane retired, that we really started to build a brand within and really launch within the United States. 2020 was supposed to be the official launch of Wade Cellars, but of course we know what happened in 2020. Yeah. So 2019 was when Matt Nauman was hired as the president. Late 2019, so like literally fourth quarter. And that, like I said, 2020 was really supposed to be the real launch of Wade Cellars within the United States.
Right. And so where are they making the wines at that point? Is it in a crush pad facility?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So we had, at the time, we had a custom crush facility that we were making, all the juice as our winemaker at the time was kind of overseeing the whole operation.
And at the time, it was John Keys from the beginning?
John Keys.
Okay.
Yes.
John?
It's not John anymore, no.
Okay.
So now it's Matt Nauman.
Okay.
Now it's Matt.
Yep. Exactly. Love John.
Okay. And we haven't even mentioned Jason Paulmeyer and his sort of role in this whole thing.
Oh man, Jason. So, I mean, so when Dwyane first started and within wine, even right. He found wine, started traveling throughout the world, places to Burgundy, Bordeaux, and then eventually Napa, which is where he eventually met the Paulmeyer family. And as he was thinking about retiring, or as he was starting to think about retiring, he decided that he wanted to start his own project. And because he had such a tight relationship with the Paulmeyer family and Jason, it made sense for them to go into business together, where Jason could really oversee and the Paulmeyer family could really oversee the whole operations side.
They have a little experience.
Just a little bit, Yeah, but and oversee all the things that happened on the operations side of things. And it was a perfect fit. The Paulmeyers, of course, have a long lineage of producing amazing wine. And really wanted to transfer that over into the partnership that they had between Dwyane and the Paulmeyers.
Okay, and so John Keys was making the wine at the beginning. You have Paulmeyer involved. You have Dwyane Wade's passion project. How are people receiving the wines? And did you get a little blowback because this is another George Clooney, Cameron Diaz kind of situation?
No, absolutely. I think there's always that skepticism or that hesitation when it comes to anything has to do with Wade Cellars, because it is. I mean, Dwyane Wade is a very famous person. I mean, it just is what it is at the end of the day. But I think what has shifted that narrative has been Dwyane's actions within the industry, and not just at Wade Cellars, just the industry as a whole, right? Dwyane, first and foremost, loves wine. And everyone says that. Oh, I love wine, right? But no, he really loves wine. He loves to drink. He loves to read. He loves to meet the producers. He loves to visit the regions and really be able to see the places, really see the terroir, right? I think that's really what has really been able to shift the narrative of what Wade Cellars is, right? Because it starts with him, right? It starts with his willingness to be able to learn, and he'll tell you all day, every day that he doesn't know everything, but who does, right? This is a lifelong journey of wanting to learn and to really be able to continue to learn from others and really be able to build a knowledge that is to be shared and passed down to everyone, right? So whether that be Dwyane sitting on the board at UC Davis Oenology and Viticulture, right, and kind of playing a part in the education space, or that be Dwyane being at the winery, what I'm saying, like helping on the crush pad or do whatever. It's all of these things he's doing to help better his knowledge and education, and even getting down to taking this national tour that we started when we gather series, taking this on the road and being able to partner with amazing chefs throughout the nation and sommeliers throughout the nation, and really just spreading the gospel of dope juice.
I mean, the thing about it is, to me, that where I looked at it as this was more than just a celebrity wine was, yes, he made his Napa Valley Cab, his Oakville Cab, but he could have very easily just said, "Oh, and we'll make Russian River Pinot or Carneros Pinot and Carneros Chardonnay." But no, he does a rosé and then Chenin Blanc, and I carry the Chenin Blanc flag, but to have someone like that introduce, I don't know how many cases you guys made of that we had it the first year. I bought some at Bottle Barn. Shout out Bottle Barn for carrying it.
Yes, yes, love Bottle Barn.
For taking on something like Chenin, which is still a hard sell,
right?
But you just got to get in people's mouth.
Exactly.
But he, that was what you guys picked,
right?
I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit of where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, Dwyane loves Chenin. I mean, like anyone who has a palate.
Hashtag Dwyane loves Chenin.
Straight up, Chenin on him. So I mean, that's what it is. So I mean, he loves producers like, as do I, but producers like Nicolas Joly, Domaine Huet, the classics, right? And when we started, he was really adamant about making sure that we produce a Chenin. So our Chenin, coming from
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to imagine that meeting where we're like, yeah, we're gonna do the Napa Cab, we're gonna do a rosé from Sonoma. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna do Chenin Blanc from Clarksburg.
Right.
Wait, what?
What? All I imagine is Dwyane jumping up on the table like he did when he shot that shot. I forget what game it was, but he went and jumped on the announcer's table and said, "This is my house in Miami.
Yeah. This is my wine.
Exactly. This is my Chenin." You feel me? But no, that's but yeah, no, he was like really adamant about producing it. So this is of course from Clarksburg, particularly from Wilson Vineyard. So yeah, you know what's up, what's good. So this is it actually goes about 50%, or half of it goes through ML, then we blend it back together, just to add again that weight and that richness, but still has that nice solidity, nice acid. This is Clarksburg Chenin running it, and
of course we know where Clarksburg is. Bart was making Chenin from Clarksburg for a long time, and then he jumped up to Mendocino for a bit.
Right. I think we're going back to Clarksburg though.
But Clarksburg is, I mean, Chenin Blanc. What else are they growing there?
Petit Verdot. Is it Petit
Petite Syrah.
Petite
You know,
Syrah.
yeah, Clarksburg
Yeah.
has a little rec for Petite Syrah. I mean, they grow everything there, and they do a very good job with everything. They're very good farmers there.
It's just one of those places that I mean, unless we're talking about Chenin Blanc, I rarely say Clarksburg.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
but
true.
they produce a lot of Petit. Yeah. But I mean, there's not many other places in California that produce Chenin Blanc, which is so wild to me because Chenin Blanc used to be one of the most widely planted grapes.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in California,
It was everywhere.
everywhere.
was
I mean, granted, I mean this was a lot of it went to jug wine, and this was a lot of it came from the Central Valley.
But when I started, I mean, there was Moon Mountain. It wasn't known as Moon Mountain then, but the winery I worked at, there was a vineyard that was planted half to Chenin Blanc, and it was at the top of Moon Mountain. I mean, it's crazy to think. Think about if they would have left that in.
Oh my God,
It would be incredible.
Well, but it all got ripped out to plant what Pinot, Chard,
Anything.
Sauvignon Blanc, anything but Chenin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's an old Gallo ad that I have a copy of. I'm sorry, an old Sebastiani ad that I have a copy of, and it talks about their Sonoma Valley Chenin, So it was everywhere. But yeah, it went away because of Chardonnay is really what it went away for.
Yeah,
because Chardonnay
yeah.
was catching a higher price. It was easier to grow, and that was it.
Right, but you're seeing this resurgence that's happening with Chenin. A lot of producers are coming back to it. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, we love to see it because I mean, Chenin is such a versatile grape, right? Even I mean, talking about climate change again, it's very adaptable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, Chenin can kind of do all things. It's kind of like a chameleon. It could be mad sweet. It could be dry. It could be exactly. It could be sparkling. It could be still. It can kind of run the whole gambit.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bart's not angry if more people are drinking Chenin Blanc. Yeah.
We love it.
No, I mean, when I made my first one in 2009, it was from Clarksburg, and I got invited to a lunch over in Napa that year, and it was like this group of guys making Chenin Blanc, and as I look back at it now, it was Craig Armeyer,
Wow,
it was Tegan,
yeah,
it was
Same
Leo
one.
Steen,
Right.
or Leo Hansen.
Jurassic Vineyard. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And a handful of other people, the folks from the children of Frog's Leap. So there was only a handful of us, and it was a hard sell.
But I mean, let's be honest. The names that you just dropped, bro, are legends.
And they were all just like, it was all new to them also at that time.
Yeah. Have you had Craig Harmeyer's Chenin Blanc? If you haven't,
I haven't.
okay, we're gonna
Hook you up and go see Craig in Sacramento.
That would be amazing.
This is like
absolutely.
him and his son. It's like a 2-man operation in a what seems to be like a former auto parts
I love it.
store or something, where the Chenin Blanc that he makes is mind-blowingly good.
And he makes some Wilson. The amazing thing about it is it's an old historic winery in Sacramento, in like downtown Sacramento, and he was able to continue making wine there. But it's in the middle of an industrial area
I love it.
in South Sacramento, West Sac.
And he just makes like Nebbiolo and Chenin. He's not
Amazing.
chasing dollars.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. It's for the
it's
passion
a
of the grape.
passion project.
Yeah. Passion of the grape. Exactly.
Well,
And
this
that's when
is
you
a
make the
delicious wine.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I wish I could say I made it.
And what is the retail price on that?
20. Yeah. 20
Sorry,
SRP.
sorry, Bart.
No, I mean, I'm hoping to go back and get some fruit from Clarksburg this year. For a number of years, I was making this vineyard up in Mendocino.
Nice.
That I found. Thank you, Tegan, for turning me on to it.
Shout out to Tegan.
And we shared it for a while with Pax and Hardy. And unfortunately, they're letting the vineyard go fallow. But it was old 1950s, 40s planted Chenin, dry farmed.
Wow.
But it's going back to the earth.
Jeez, man.
It's a shame. So
That is a shame.
and I can't get anyone to plant any for me here in Sonoma, so.
Well, we know of one person, and he's using it all. Eric Bradley
Yeah.
from the parents' house. But
I heard through the grapevine that there's some Shannon that's about to be planted at a pretty well-known producer within kind of one of the forefront leaders of regenerative agriculture. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't know if he's like
That's
public
cool.
with it
Yeah.
right now.
right.
But in Napa,
Okay.
that's about to be planted.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
super excited for that, to see that.
Yeah, good to
happen.
hear. I mean, young people aren't tied to specific varietals like our parents were when they're drinking Cab Pinot Chard Sauvignon Blanc.
Mhm.
They like stretching out
For
and
sure.
trying some new stuff. And the pendulum always swings. So it's like people drink Chenin Blanc and then it goes away for a little while and then all of a sudden it becomes a cool thing to drink Chenin Blanc again. So yeah, hopefully we can see a little resurgence.
It's exciting to see this like new era of wine drinker, right? I would definitely classify myself as like more of a classic style type of dude. Personally, if that makes any sense. When I say classic, I mean just classic producers. But to see this, this movement of natural wine, is amazing to see.
Yeah.
I definitely feel more so like an outsider. But I have a lot of friends who are kind of within that movement. But even within that movement, you see, this variation of varietals and also styles within classic varietals that aren't classic at all. Right? They're doing completely new, innovative, like out of the box thinking things with grapes that are untraditional, but people, they're loving it. They're loving it.
Whatever brings people in.
Right, exactly.
Get them drinking more wine.
Exactly.
Get them off the White Claw and the Truly, and get them drinking anything that's grape based.
Exactly.
Right, and it's got a, the label has a cat that looks like he's on acid or whatever. Who cares?
I actually have a friend whose label just dropped that actually has a cat on it that looks like he's on acid.
There you go. I'm sure he's gonna do well.
But she makes amazing wine and makes wine actually for a classic producer.
Right.
And is more classic in style for her quote unquote day job, but her second project is phenomenal, and is natural wine.
Shout her out.
Oh, Meg Zobak.
Oh yeah,
Meg and Zobak.
of course.
Yeah. I love. Yeah, she's making amazing wine over at Burgess.
Yeah, Meg's boyfriend works right next door here.
Oh, dope. Yes. Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
Such a small world.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, there's so many connections. Like, I don't know if you've met Diana Snowden.
Oh, of course.
Okay, because I've heard you talk about Dujac before, and I'm like, oh, maybe he.
Diana and also Jeremy Sess are amazing people.
Yeah, they are.
I love them both, and I love their commitment to change within the industry. Yeah. Because what happens is, a lot of people, especially in 2020, posted a black square, and that was it. And they were like, oh, we support, da woo woo woo. We support diversity and inclusion. We support inclusiveness and all these kind of things. But at the end of the day, they never put their money where their mouth is. And Diana, as well as Jeremy, are people who do that. And I know from firsthand experience, especially while being over in Burgundy, have opened their doors greatly for me personally, and for many other people who have been in Burgundy, and their commitment to organizations, to specifically the Roots Fund, is great. So I look up to them. I commend those two greatly for the work that they have done and are still doing. I love them both. Yeah.
Talk about the Roots Fund a little bit.
Absolutely.
So I was a mentor for a while for a woman from the Roots Fund. I was connected with her. Philosophy Cellars.
Oh, yes.
Out of Maryland.
Yeah.
And I think we were together for a year. They haven't assigned me anyone else since then. I'm hoping that doesn't mean I didn't do a good job.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
But Jeremy is on the board of the Roots Fund, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And they, I'll let you talk.
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
I was trying to...
No. So the Roots Fund is an amazing nonprofit organization that was actually started back in 2020 between three phenomenal people: Carlton McCoy, Tahira Habibi, and Akimi Debo. all three incredible people. Carlton McCoy, of course, being a master somm. I believe he was the second Black master somm.
Yep.
That was awarded that. Not even awarded. He earned it. Yeah, exactly. He took that test. But they're an organization that supplies different opportunities for people of color. Those opportunities include scholarships for quartermaster sommelier, scholarships for WSET, enrichment trips, also internships as well. They have a partnership with the Burgundy School of Business, which is a business school out in Burgundy, of course, but have sponsored and paid for 3 different people to have gone through that program, who I know all 3, and all 3 of them are amazing and doing incredible things in the industry now. But I mean, honestly, just an amazing organization. I am actually a recipient of a scholarship, which is actually why I went out to Burgundy in 2021 and did harvest over at Domaine de Monty in Marceau, which was absolutely, I mean, life-changing, right? Before that, I hadn't really done a real harvest. Like I had helped out back in 2020.
Yeah, you missed your opportunity in Oregon.
Right, yeah. This was, I mean, shout out to Brooks. I think they're an amazing producer. But when I told them about the opportunity, they were just like, oh, yeah, you got to take that. Like, yeah, no. They were like, yeah, do that. Go.
Winery rep, yeah.
But you know, it's an incredible organization. And you know, I got to experience that firsthand in 2021. Now, granted, you know, the track record that I had as far as vintages weren't great because I landed in Napa in 2020. You know, my second day in the office was the day that the entire Bay Area turned apocalyptic orange. Yeah. I know you guys probably remember that. That was
headlights on.
Oh yeah. It was wild, man. AQI was at like 650 down in Valley. It was wild. I didn't even know what an AQI was at the time. You know, air quality index, for those of you all who may not know what that is. Yeah. But yeah, and then to go to 21 in Burgundy, which was also not the greatest vintage, but the thing is that when fires aren't involved, but great producers produce great wine no matter the vintage, right? So I think I was honestly blessed to be able to have that experience that I did in Marceau, to be able to see a great producer like Monty, Domaine de Monty, and to see what they did with you know, their vineyards, and what they did with the grapes that they had. Yeah, it was, but
I mean, the opportunity that you had to do your first harvest in Burgundy is so much different than what it could have been. I mean, Brooks, you would have had the full experience, but a lot of people, their first experience is working at a large place where all they do is put,
squeegee,
yeah, right, widget.
Exactly.
And I've never gotten a chance to work a harvest abroad, but you truly get the full experience because you are out picking grapes one day.
Oh yeah.
You're out, dropping fruit one day.
Yeah. Completely.
Then you're in the winery.
Yeah.
You're doing everything. And they tend to take a little bit longer lunches.
Yo, let's talk about that real quick. Let's pause right there.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of breaks that they take in France are freaking amazing.
Right.
Like seriously, we literally had like 4 or 5 breaks, which was amazing. But we still were able to kind of get everything done. The lunch in particular was literally like an hour, 2 hours long. Right. I mean, full spread, wine, cheese, the whole shebang. And then when we're done cleaning at the end of the day, I mean, granted, the day is a little bit more elongated, but you're with your peers. And then at the end of it, we had Aperol Spritz that we like, like it was great. It was amazing. I mean, it was just, it didn't feel as long because you had this camaraderie that you build, as within harvest. But at the same time, you have all of these amazing experiences with just being able to sit down and be able to drink, wines that you would never even think of, and
they're so casual about
just casual. Yeah, I mean, I remember the last time that I was in Burgundy, I got to go taste with Jacques, at the Mendu Jacques, and he poured a 96 Bon Mar, like just casually. I'm just like, bro, what? Like, bro, are you like, this is Bon Mar, like this is 96, like this is like, what is going on? And then after that, you know, Etienne drove me to Romani Conti and got to see the vineyards of, like, and I literally was just sitting there with Etienne and was just like sobbing, like literally crying, because you know, you dream, you read about these regions, and you read about these vineyards, and you read about these producers, but to be there and to be able to touch it and see it is
spiritual.
Oh, completely. It is spiritual. I mean, the connection that you have is just, especially when you're in it and you love it, and you see it from, you know, our lens. It is spiritual. You're able to kind of, it was wild experience.
It's a different feeling there. I mean, I had a trip to Burgundy that I hold deep in my heart, and one of the experiences I got to have was I spent 2 hours in the cellar with Jacques Lardier, right? And the same thing though. At the end of the day, he goes, "Oh, do you need a ride, you know, back to wherever I was going?" And he took me in his Volvo, right? And we kind of drove around the Grand Cru, and he pointed things out, right? And not once did we ever talk about winemaking, right? Not once did we talk about yeast or barrels or anything. We just tasted out of barrels, right? And he talked about spiritual things more than anything else,
right? And that's what it's about, right? That's what it comes down to is people and connection, right? And those who have come before us to be able to do and produce and make amazing things that inspired the producers that we know and love right now who are doing it, right? It's understanding those philosophies that they had, and being able to not only of course understand it, but be able to interpret it in our own way now, and to be able to pass it off to the next generation, and hopefully be able to leave things better than what we found it, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that's the whole. That's why I'm in this. That's why I do it. That's why Wade Cellars was started. That's why Dwyane started this. Was to do that exact thing. Was to be able to take something that had been great before, amazing, but make it better, and then be able to pass it off to this next generation even better than what we found it.
So what is that like the first time you meet Dwyane?
Oh man, I'm sorry. That was really loud.
Because I mean, I worked for the Four Seasons for a long time. There's certain people you get a little bit nervous about meeting, and some people you don't. I imagine Dwyane, just because he has kind of like an aura, right?
He is one of the most amazing individuals that I've ever met in my life. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss now, and I'm not just saying that because he's like Dwyane Wade, but he is one of the most genuine, kind-hearted individuals that takes time to listen and takes time to understand whatever that is that you're talking about, and he listens, right? And there's not a lot of people like that in general in life who take the time to be able to like look you in your eye, listen to you, what you're saying, and be able to give thoughtful whatever, right, in that moment, and make you feel that, okay, wow, this person gets me, this person understands me, right, and this person gets it. On a human level, Dwyane is amazing. On a business level, it transfers even more greatly, right? Because leadership and is coming from the top down, right? So if your leader is not thorough, or if your leader is not in line or confident with sharing the vision that they have, or there's a disconnect, then the whole organization is just falls out of whack. It starts with Dwyane, and he and also Jason Pallmeyer, and just the Pallmeyer family, and it starts with them and their connection that they have, and their understanding for what they want to do for the wine industry is so great and so beautiful that it makes my job so easy. and seamless, right? It just makes it so effortless, and I'm thankful to both Dwyane as well as Jason, and also just the whole Paulmeyer family and just the entire team, because there is this connection that we have with the team, the entire team. There's not many of us, so it gets crazy. Don't get me wrong. Like we are in those trenches. Like literally everybody does everybody, whether it be Michelle Lipa, whether it be Haley Robinson, whether it be Jamie Secchi, whether it be Jamie Watson, the entire team. There's this connection that we all have and share, because we understand the vision of what Wade Cellars is, and the vision that we want it to represent for the wine industry as a whole.
Yeah. And where are you guys at in terms of case production?
It's not big. Right now we're at like 16,000 cases.
Right.
So it's not big, but it's not small.
Right.
It's not small by any means, but we're not producing 150,000 cases. That's
right.
That's not where we're at.
So can you tell us about this this Cabernet?
Oh yes. So we have our 2020 Cabernet, which was honestly birthed out of damn near out of necessity. Honestly, in a normal year we would have produced a Napa cab. Previous vintages we pulled from Rutherford, Oakville, St. Helena, but because of 2020 we weren't comfortable with the quality of fruit that we were getting. So we actually ended up sourcing a majority of this actually from, funny enough, in Sonoma over at Bedrock Vineyard. Over with
we'll give them one of these.
Okay.
Hey. Friends of the pod.
Okay.
Yes, definitely, and friends of Wade Cellars.
Okay.
We have a few things kind of in queue with them that we're really excited about. But a majority of that cab came from that that vineyard.
Okay.
A little bit from Mendocino as well.
Yeah.
But stylistically it's still very similar. 12 months, new French oak, so not long on the oak treatment, because we just wanted this to be fresh. We wanted it to be vibrant. We wanted it to be ready to drink, and really be able to give it to the people.
And what was the meeting like when they said you're going to go out and sell 2020 red wine?
Right. Yeah. It was interesting. First off and foremost, it was about the juice, right?
Yeah.
I personally, I can't get behind something that if it's not right, it's not right. And I'll tell you straight up, like, period. Fortunately enough, the juice is right. So it's a fairly easy meeting. I mean, the juice was what it needed to be. It's phenomenal. It still has that nice rich character. It still has a nice light acid. It still has like that nice velvety texture, but still again, very, very light. Like I said, we like to think of ourselves as classic in style or a classic in ethos when we produce anything, but we pay a lot more attention to our cabs because we don't over extract our fruit, right? We don't want something that's like super jammy.
It's unmistakably Cabernet.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, true to type, right?
Right. And so you will, going forward, continue to source out of Oakville, Rutherford, and St. Helena, and that will kind of be the blend that you guys use.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, for sure.
Okay.
Now, granted, we might, do some High Mountain fruit. We might, do. We might stray and do some like more single vineyard stuff when it comes to cab. We are going to do that. That is definitely happening.
Get in line for Tokalan.
Tokalan.
We know a guy.
Oh, Tokalan. What's that fruit going for now, Ton? What, like 35?
30.
How much you want to sell it for?
All right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
is it like 30, 35?
It's got to be, because Oakville Ranch is 2025.
Yeah.
So,
jeez.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So I just poured some of that 91 Kenwood Jack London Ranch Merlot.
Lord have mercy.
Brian, you got ready for it?
Sure.
I could reach George's glass.
I pulled this bottle because so Bart used to make wine at Kenwood, Benziger, and Lassiter. So I think you were probably at Kenwood when this wine was made.
I was, and I certainly never made wine there. I was
squeegeeing at the time.
I was squeegeeing. I was a very, very good forklift driver. But I did, I was part of the blending team with this and got to sit in on those things. And but it certainly was not making wine. But
This
yeah.
is such a treat, honestly.
I mean, I didn't bring this wine. You're telling me it's such a treat. I don't have a bottle of this in my cellar.
This is such a treat.
That's great.
Phenomenal.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Brian.
Phil.
There's a couple cases of just random stuff in the cellar here that Phil brought over from his cellar. Said, I want you guys to.
Wow.
He's great about that kind of stuff.
I mean,
I want you to open these wines and talk about
It's
them.
so lively.
Yeah.
It's still so fresh.
Yeah.
It has this brightness to it that I'm just like, I just keep going back.
Got a nice little gaminess.
For sure.
Little
I'm actually
smoked meat.
A little bit.
kind
I'm about
of
to say,
thing
yeah, a
going
little
on.
like bacon fat type
Yeah.
ordeal that's going on.
Yeah.
We
This is when Merlot was cool.
it was when Merlot was Merlot.
Oh man.
I'm actually really excited. I just on one of those websites, the auction sites, I just bought half a case of old Kenwood wines.
Oh.
That I can't wait to start bringing in.
Wow.
And opening.
What
Because-
vintages?
It's a number of things, 87 artist series,
Oh yeah.
a couple of 90s Cabernets, some old Zins.
So bottles you were probably given back in the day
That
but
I drank.
them on
That was
Tuesday.
one that I bought that I drank.
Yeah, sure.
I have singles of some of the artist series in my cellar that I'll open those with you guys and save the ones that probably were more properly cellared.
The 90s was such an amazing era, particularly 94 in Napa, right? I mean, I'm partial to 94 because that's my birth year.
I was gonna say,
say
how
that
do
kinda
you?
quietly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember drinking '94. As you were, yeah.
Oh, trust me, I'm popping those now too.
Yeah.
But it was such like we talked about before. It was such a unique era because there was such a large transition in style that happened. Post really 96. I said 97 before, but it's really after 96 that it starts to really transition. But this 91 is drinking beautifully.
And so now, are you drinking Matthias and wines every now and then? Are you
Oh,
getting
for
it over?
sure.
Okay.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love Steve. Steve is such just an amazing individual, amazing human. But what he's done for the industry has been, I mean, so great, so amazing. I mean, people like Steve, people like the Aaron Jordans, people like the Kathy Coruscants. Legends, in their making. Eventually Tegan. I mean, Tegan is an amazing individual. I don't know if I'd necessarily put him in the legend category yet, but he's definitely going to be, for sure.
I think he listens to the show, so we'll
No, for sure. No. And I mean, Steve and Jill both, their philosophy on wine and just farming, I think is the future of California wine. It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
I feel it has to be.
And you're over on the other side of the hill. What are the conversations about climate change and maybe, I don't know, planting some Grenache over there?
I was about to say, if you ask Matt Nauman, Grenache is the future.
For real.
But it is, though.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Yeah.
It is the future. It's another one of those grapes that are super resilient and can handle that stress and still produce, and retain acid, right? It's so important for reds, particularly, of course, whites as well, but reds even more, because it gets so hot.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then it just becomes super flabby and super fat, and it doesn't have that balance that you'll seek. But Grenache is one of those grapes that can do that, right? So yeah, no, this is definitely. I mean, that's definitely the as Matt Nauman would say, the nominator. Grenache is the grape of the future.
I think of Grenache right now as like that, that the old lady from Florida that's sitting out at the pool where she's like burnt from being out in the sun for 30 years, and she's smoking a Virginia Slim, and she's drinking a pina colada, and she just doesn't give a shit.
Yes.
She's got like the silver thing up to her face, trying to take in more sun. Her skin looks like leather.
Putting baby oil on.
Right, and she's happy as hell. Grenache is like that, just kind of hanging out up there like, yeah, bring it.
Absolutely.
All right, so just from learning about your story and knowing a little bit more about you, what's the first wine you're going to make, and what do you think you're going to make?
Personally?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow.
You know this is going to happen. And are they going to let you use the facility? Right? You haven't had this conversation already?
So wait, we won't put you that much on the spot.
Are you
no. Well, I was going to say, it's that classic thing, like,
right.
So if you could make wine from anywhere in the world.
There you go. I like that phrasing.
Right?
I like that PC, politically correct. I like it.
Yeah, Brian throws the hard ball. I'm like, here, let me get the softball out for you.
I mean, he's working with Bedrock. The Bedrock model, and just like, Pax Maley too, is bring people in.
Right.
When they're passionate about something, turn them loose.
For sure.
Let them and learn from their experiences.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great question, man. I've kind of bounced all over the place, right? Riesling, of course, was my first. Well, actually, Chenin was my first love. And then Riesling.
I love this guy.
Of course. and then Riesling, but for whatever reason, I feel like I hate to sound like this, but I feel like I'm coming back to Basicville. But you know what? I don't give a fuck because I love it. I love Chard, man. I really do. Like, I think, and like I said before, I had this idea of what Chardonnay was, particularly in California, Chardonnay as well as Cabernet Sauvignon. But when it's done well, when it has a little bit of reduction, I love reduction, just personally. Yeah. I do. And it has that acid, and it has this richness, and it has this kind of like, I think it can do so well. So will that be my first? No, I don't know. Or if I could make it in any part of the world, I think that might be it. And I hate to sound super basic. And then second to none would be, make a Sauvignon style Chenin, straight up and down, like that. I mean, a Sauvignon style Chenin, like with that richness and like that kind of like weight, like that would be like super ideal. Like I love that, but with that being said, I also love Sauvignon. Like I love Sauvignon for that very exact same reason, right? It has those same qualities. Like stylistically, like that's what I gravitate towards. Like that's my style that I love. Fat, rich, acid,
right?
Acidity. Like that's what I lean towards.
Yeah, Bart and I have had this conversation about. I don't know if you've ever had Consgard.
Oh yes, of
Chardonnay
course.
From the Judge Vineyard,
of course.
Which I think of a marshmallow, like a marshmallow has richness to it, but it weighs nothing. And I don't know how that wine gets made. I have no idea how that wine gets made, but it's rich in your mouth. But then all of a sudden,
it's still so like
it's
airy.
weightless.
Like, yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly it. That's the perfect description.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, so what would this label be called if it were a label?
Oh man, Jesus. No. We're not going there. No. I love the fact that the wine industry has been so gracious. So gracious. With its time, with its knowledge, with its people, with everything that has at least my personal experience. When I first moved here to Napa, I got invited to go up to Sonoma with Jamie Watson and Cleo Palmeyer's property in their project Wayfair. And
talk about good Chardonnay.
Yeah.
That outreach.
Yeah. Oh man, incredible.
Right.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I got invited to go up there, and we camped out, And I got to see the vineyards, and this was like literally like as soon as I got to, I don't even think I moved into. I didn't even get to Napa yet. So no, that was like my first. I had gone like because I drove cross country from Michigan, and that was the first stop that I made in California, and then to when I actually like moved into my place and had my first official day, and then Matt Nauman took me through the valley, and to be able to see down 29 and to be able to see the producers, which, is, I won't say I take for granted now, but, seeing it for the first time, because moving out, I mean, that was the first time I had even gone out to California, or visited California was when I moved here, but to see the producers and to like see their name on the board and see the vineyard was incredible. But my point being is the generosity and the graciousness that I have been shown within the industry has been incredible. And I know it's not the same for everyone. And I know that I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am right now. But I'm just thankful for the opportunity that I have now, and am excited to see what happens in the future. Yeah. Because I know that this is just the beginning for Wade Cellars. This is just the beginning for us. And I'm excited for the projects that are to come, because at the end of the day, it's about the people, and the people who are associated with the project, and the people are real.
Yeah. And I know where Brian's going with, what do you want to do with your label or your project or whatever, but it took me a long time to get to that point. Now it seems like people just do it, right? Like, of course I'm going to start my own brand. My advice to you is take your time and suck in all this information that you can learn on all these other people's dime. And you'll get to the point where maybe someday you'll want to do it yourself. But man, there's so much to learn, and you've got a huge jump on it. I just keep taking the information and just process.
Yeah.
Because you're in a good spot, dude.
It's a blessing, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's awesome.
To be able to learn as much as I have learned, and to be able to be around people who are willing to teach, is a blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited. I'm just excited for what's to come, and just to continue this process. I mean, we're in Sonoma right now, drinking 91 Merlot from Kenwood, and eating charcuterie, talking about amazing producers, and it's like what 74, 76 degrees outside. Right. It's perfect. This is literally a dream, and I just want to keep on living it.
And that honestly, that's what's fun for me and fun for us, is to see it through someone else's eyes, because growing up here, sometimes you don't realize you just came up in it, so it just seems like this is every day, but it's, of course, it's fun to see it through someone else's eyes, because then you go, oh, wait a minute, we do live in this cool spot.
We get to live in a place where people vacation,
right.
And dream of vacationing. It's wild when I get to wake up and see the mountains and the Vaca Mountains, and just look outside my window and see hot air balloons just going up, and right next to that,
and you're like, where's that hot air balloon gonna land?
Right, exactly. Where do they land? I'm actually really curious. But no, it's wild to think about, right? I mean, for at least for me, and I just never want to forget that moment, that exact same moment that I had when I got that first email from Wade Cellars. And that excitement that I had.
It's awesome.
And I haven't. It just keeps going. It keeps growing. It keeps glowing.
We'll wrap it up right now, because I got one last question, and then we're gonna get some shout outs. So I know you got a thing for pasta. Where's your place to go for pasta over in Napa? Who's doing it right?
Actually, you know what? Scala. This was my first time. Last month was my first time going there, and I legitimately went there 3 times in 1 month. Seeing people just running into random homies like Julia Coney or Dylan Proctor or whoever. That place has some really damn good pasta. It's really good.
That's awesome.
How can people get a hold of some of these wines if they want to get them shipped right to their house?
Yes. So please, first follow us on all the socials. We are at Wade Cellars on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but also our website, which is dwadecellars.com. We ship all over the nation. So please look for us. We're not hard to find. And I'll probably be the one that's you're connecting with, like, so please reach out.
Yeah, and follow George Walks 3 on Instagram. I mean, you don't post a lot, but sometimes in your stories there's some stuff there. So certainly follow that also.
Okay, and then tell people what's going on. So this will come out Friday, so it'll be too late. But what's going on Thursday night?
Yes, so the When We Gather series. So we have a When We Gather dinner that's happening with over at Horn Barbecue with Matt Horn. This When We Gather series has been incredible. We've been able to partner with amazing chefs and somms throughout the nation, many of which who have won, either a James Beard or been nominated for a James Beard or been on the cover of Wine Enthusiast magazine or whatever, all the accolades. But what it really comes down to is really being able to connect over good food, great wine, and even better people.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Bart, you got anything?
I have to give a shout out to Santa Rosa Orthopedics. My son Dane, I'm running out of here right now to take Dane to his first physical therapy after having an ACL. So I'm giving them a shout out because I want to make sure that we get some good physical therapy over the next 6 months.
Yeah.
But other than that, Sonoma Valley Vintage Festival is coming up in end of September. Right now you can buy tickets at a discounted for the Legends dinner or for the grand tasting.
And is that going to happen at Buena Vista again?
No, this year the Legends dinner will be at B.R. Cohen.
Okay.
With Glenn Ellen Starr doing the food.
Oh, nice. Shout out to
and the grand tasting will be in the barracks here just off the plaza.
Okay.
It's going to be great. Last year was the first year the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers took over the event. Yeah. And we have some more time to be prepped, so it's going to be that much more better this year.
We had fun.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And there will be more of that coming. Of course, and I know you'll get to this. Grenache Day is coming.
Yes.
Grenache Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'll
realistically,
tell you all about it.
It's we're celebrating my birthday, but Grenache Day happens to be on the same day.
Okay.
And that's about it for me,
Okay. Okay. Shout out to Robert French.
Yes, of course.
For dropping, what he brought the other day was that Greek white wine that the Perlegos brothers made in Lodi.
Yeah.
So he brought me a bottle. And Bart, like a old man, has got his phone talking to him.
Well, no, and then he dropped me a bottle of Christopher. I know. Somehow my phone has never had Siri, but now Siri wants to talk. He dropped me a bottle of Christopher Creek Carignan Cinsault that I'll bring for our next show. It's another trip to Lodi.
Okay, I'll save the Perlegos for that show then.
Yeah.
So besides Grenache Day, we got a couple events coming up here at 16600. We are getting back to doing the Vinyl Sunday. So the first one is going to be July 2nd. The guy who owns Right On Records over in Napa is going to set up turntables right here in the corner out on the patio at 589 First Street.
Is he going to bring records to sell too?
He's going to bring records to spin and records to sell.
Nice.
We're going to have Costa's Tacos here doing the tacos, and we're going to be pouring
everything.
Well, it's going to be a rosé release. So it's going to be the 22 Rosé Agale, which Isabelle Gossier says is the best rosé she's ever made. Probably the 22 Auditat Rosé, and then some of the 22 Primitivo Rosé in cans. So it'll be a celebration of rosé. August, I believe it's 6, will be Jerry Garcia's birthday. So there will be another Vinyl Sunday the following month happening here. And then...
Dude, what day is that again?
They're follow the layer of smoke. Start at the downtown plaza, look for the smoke signals. And then International Grenache Day, so widely celebrated in Spain and France, but not so much here in the United States. But we are changing that Sonda Bernstein from The Girl and the Fig is, tried to
Our
change that over the
inspiration.
years, but we partnered up with The Girl and the Fig, and so we're doing sort of a big party on Friday night that will be on the back porch of The Girl and the Fig, and then Saturday will be a dinner at Sweet D, their event space. Tickets are on sale if you go to the figcaters.com or thegirlandthefig.com and just follow the prompts. You can get tickets for that dinner. Vicky Carroll, who runs the Hospice de Rhone and also is Jeb Dunnick's sort of right-hand man when it comes to doing his paso and slow tastings, is going to be bringing a bunch of Grenache that are sort of left over from some of these events. And so the entire table will be lined with incredible Grenache from all over. And then Sunday, our portion is we get to host the concert. So our friends that have the barn out there on Denmark Street, we have Catherine Russell, world-renowned jazz artist, is here in town for Monterey Pops, but is going to stop and do a show for us. We did acquire a grand piano, which was a new thing for us. But we got the grand piano coming, and then Tony Saunders is going to open up. We saw him a couple weeks ago at our after party at the Fairmont after the Moon Mountain district tasting, where I got to meet Richard and Joseph came over. We're gonna Tony's gonna play some Grateful Dead stuff, but then transition into some blues, jazz, and then right up to Catherine's show. So, and I think we're charging $75 for tickets. It's going to be the best concert that Sonoma has ever seen. And Mike the Baker, and then Fiorella Bruton, who was the former chef for Stone Edge Farm at Edge, they're partnering up and doing the food for it, and we're going to be pouring the wine. So
it's crazy.
Lots of stuff going on. If you don't know what to do this summer,
sounds amazing.
Give us a call. We'll give you something to do.
I don't know if you all will be there, but I'll be out there. I will definitely be there.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much for popping over the hill.
Thank you all so much for this. This was seriously amazing.
Yeah, and if there's an opportunity for us to come over and maybe see your spot, we'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. This has been the Winemakers. We'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Drink
you.
more Chenin Blanc.
Amen. Cheers.